The way that I work with the hand in the beginning is to work with a one-to-one so that you're actually using your hand to basically trace out the clay that we'll be using in the form. And that just is because we have a model with us today, and it will be here for us to look at in different positions. So this is the easiest way to kind of start understanding the anatomy of the hand. So what I do is I start with a block of clay, and I try to think about the width of the hand this way, and then we will kind of roll out the slab a little bit or throw it out. And this is the most difficult part. So what I want to do is kind of just throw the slab so that the platelets in this clay start lining up together. So I kind of check to see if my hand will fit on the little slab of clay that we have. And then I also again check kind of the height of this clay in comparison to my hand. And then we simply just trace onto the slab of clay and then simply cut that out. So now that we have the slab, everything's connected, which makes it easier for me, and I've found for students as well, that you don't have to add these coils of clay to the hand, because any of you who have tried to put fingers on, especially when you're working with a smaller size, know that those continually fall off. The digits just will find a way to fall off. What we do now that we have this slab of clay, we want to put this away because we'll be using this to embellish it later, is we basically put our hand to the side and we look at the shape of the finger and how thick it is compared to how thin it is, and we try to just repeat that in the slab that we already have. So if my finger is this width here, then I'm going to basically take off this much clay. And then the thicker it gets as it comes down my hand, I'm simply going to remove that clay body so that it's closer to what my hand looks like. And if you can, if you can pinch your hand and it's very thin, then you want to be also able to do that to the piece that you're sculpting. So you're going to take out that clay the best you can. So that's all I'm doing, is I'm kind of looking at the profile of my fingers and trying to replicate that on this portion of slab that we have rolled out and cut. Then it gets more complicated as you go to the different fingers, but you can still kind of do that. And if you mess up, you simply add more clay or take more clay away. And I start with the fingers and then I go to the palm of the hand. Again, this is just a way to become familiar with the anatomy of the hand without learning all of the correct terminology. We're basically looking for landmarks and trying to figure out, the proportions by visually looking at it. The more you know about the internal structures of the hands, the muscles, the bone structure, the way that the hand moves, what happens when fingers bend, so on and so forth, the more successful you'll be with getting it to look like your actual hand. So here it is much thicker, so I'm going to leave the thickness here and I'm going to carve away some of this, just trying to get the basic shape of the hand at this point. Again, if you cut too much away, it's not a problem. We're not working with wood, so you can simply add more clay back. But now you can see I'm starting to get kind of the palm structure of the hand. A lot of times I will draw in landmarks and lines so that I can kind of reference those as I cut away or add to a piece of clay. So you can see here how I've just kind of basically started working with the palm of the hand. And now I can begin to think about the back side of the hand, where the bony structures are, the relationship of, what joints are close to the endings. The pinky is typically here at the joint of your ring finger, and the thumb here to the pointer finger. All hands are different, so proportions change, but you just will navigate your way through this structure by using your hand. So I'm going to mark where my knuckles are, and then where those joints are, and then make those lines apparent so that those again become landmarks that I can look at. The knuckles, just think of it as tracing or using this hand in a way that you can reference it. So the thumb a lot of times ends up being difficult because you'll notice that it's not flat on your hand. It wants to turn, depending on age, and how your hands have gone through this life, if they've been injured or they've worked extremely hard. Knuckles and arthritis and things like that will change the anatomy somewhat. So you want to be able to look at these pieces of information because the thumb is turned to the side somewhat. And so I'm going to check the angles with my tool. So if I can roll a tool over my finger and take it around, I should be able to do the same thing on my clay. So muscle memory is a wonderful thing. Now we'll work on the palm, doing basically the same thing we've been doing, just looking, referencing. A lot of times people are like, it just doesn't look like a hand, and one of the reasons it doesn't look like a hand is because you're not looking at your hand to make the reference. So you're just recreating what's in your mind's eye of what a hand looks like, and you're not really referencing what's right in front of you. So if you're having difficulty, just continue to look at it and play with that structure. I'm going to go ahead and mark these lines on the back or the palm of the hand as well. Again, that thumb wants to turn on us, but we need to be able to sculpt that in that format too. So if your thumb is this angle, it needs to be this angle here as well. So I'm simply going to round this edge into those particular planes. And the knuckle, when it's laying down, is basically coming from underneath. And this is just the first sketch, okay? At this point, you don't want to overwork the clay. We're just trying to get the feel of the hand, the gesture of the hand. And if you overwork it at this point, it's going to dry out and start to become too difficult to work with. We just want to quickly get these landmarks on the surface of the clay, denoting the joints, the palm where it is depressed in and comes back out. You can move clay, and bring it back over. I work with clay extremely soft because I like to move it around. I just feel that it has a better feel or quality to it, that there's more life involved in it if I don't overwork it at this point. So you can see now we kind of basically have the makings of a hand just in a very short amount of time. At this point, we're probably ready to set it up on an armature. And an armature is just a tool that we use to hold something in position. Some artists, when they're building life size, will have these armatures actually built around pieces to hold them in place. For something this size, I take something as simple as a piece of plywood, and a nail and simply stick the form on it. So we're going to set this off to the side and let it kind of percolate or rest